Happy New You.
Happy New You.
Congratulations. Everything that you'd warned us about couldn't have prepared us for this body of work. So you succeeded in fooling us all the way through.
Thank you. The other day I was like talking to some fans, like, you know, ahead of the release of the album, and like, I was like, you have no idea, like, you know what to expect. And I stopped for a second. I was like, oh no, am I like building their expectations
Gassing
too high?
yourself
Like,
too high?
Yeah, I was nervous.
You've made one thing a constant, and that is that you're willing to improve in public and learn in public.
Thank you. Yeah, taking responsibility is a painful experiment. The way that I see it is like, if everyone's going to call me out for what they think is wrong with me, I can at least take the narrative into my own hand and be like, you know, well, that's not what's wrong with me, but I'll tell you what is.
You can't control other people's opinions, but you can control the way they affect you.
Sure.
You're getting better at that?
I think so. It's like reputation versus character. I've come to learn in this industry that no matter how open they are or honest, people are really so different than they seem to be in the public eye.
But don't you think it's about getting beyond the industry and now just getting to the heart of the matter, full stop, and recognizing what the industry is to you?
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of this album was.
Because you weren't born into the industry.
I wandered into this industry. It wasn't like, I never really considered myself that kid who was like, I'm going to be a musician. I'm going to be like a rock star, you know? Like, basically a lot of the songs have this like, this gulp, like this like,
yeah.
Look, I'm trying really hard here. I definitely have had a lot of experiences that I think probably would have like hardened some people or made them really jaded. And one of the probably best and worst qualities about me is that no matter what happens, I always try to see the best in people.
Yep.
And I always go into every situation foolishly expecting that everybody's intentions are as pure or as genuine as my own. Mm-hmm. And no matter how many times that proves to be untrue, it doesn't stop me from going into the next situation and being like, new person, new, clean slate.
It's about instinct before the diligence, right?
Instinct, diligence, and also learning what I need and what I don't. It's about learning to be satisfied with less, like having less friends, putting myself out there when it counts, not just all the time, which was something I had to grow into. And maybe that's a result of having been hardened or having been tricked or wronged. That's like, I hate everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that song's, the irony in it is the punchline, which is, well, maybe I don't.
Maybe you don't.
Well, maybe I don't. I try to carry myself with that mentality of like, you know, like F everybody, like I hate everybody.
But that's
like,
just guarded and protective.
Mm-hmm. And then at the core of it is a person who's like desperately seeking to connect with people and has been successful and fruitful in that multiple times where I've made human connections that have been like incredibly pivotal. The good that I find in some people is worth siphoning through the bad that I find in others. You know what I mean? It's always worth a try.
We are going through this album, which is called Manic. Mm-hmm. The album title doesn't jump out at me as an obvious album title for the actual sonic nature of the album, the production and feel of the album. So where does the term Manic come from as an album title?
For one thing, I think that the sonic nature of the record is very fleeting. Track to track, I think I kind of approach subjects the way you'd least expect me to. A lot of it for me is about my own personal experiences with Mania versus like the public perception of Mania. Like, for example, like you're saying like, oh, it doesn't sound manic. Well, it's like, well, because manic to us in the media is this like self-destructive, unsure, irresponsible, kind of panicked mentality. That's what I thought too, which is why I wrote songs like Nightmare at first, because I was like, yeah, like when I'm manic, I'm like, I can't trust myself and I'm this and I'm that. And then I sat down to write and I was like, cool, I'm gonna write all these angry songs about being manic. And I couldn't get a word out. And I was really stuck. I was like, why can't I write about this? I've experienced this for my entire life. And then I had to sit down and do like a real self-reflection, a self-inventory about what am I really like when I'm manic? And the answer is I am loving, I am passionate, I am open to anyone who wants to come into my life and be a part of it. I can be a bit irresponsible, yeah. I can be impulsive, but mostly I'm going through every second of my day being entirely led by emotion rather than logic. So this record is, once I figured that out, once I was like, oh, these are all the best parts of me, or the parts that are motivated by instinct and impulse and thinking with my heart. And so after that, I learned I could forgive her. This is, I think, the first record of mine where when you finish listening to it, it's arguably the most self-deprecating, but also when you play the last song and the whole thing is done and you get that like, that resolve on track 16, you're like, this is not a person who hates themselves.
No, you're being kind to yourself.
Yeah.
This is an album where you're being super kind to yourself. I think you've been far more self-destructive on record before.
Yeah.
And actually you start out, the song number 1's called Ashley. When we spoke around Without Me and your private life was crashing down around you and you were super honest that day, but you and Gerald were falling apart.
Yeah.
And you wrote a song about it and you used that as therapy. You said something really important, which was like, I need to be Ashley. Like, I've been hiding behind Halsey all this time and I need to kind of be myself. And I can still be the artist, but I need to show people who I really am.
Yeah, this album is a crossover of that. It's the odyssey of that. It's funny too, because I start with Ashley, which is like this reintroduction of my personal self. And it's arguably the most Halsey sounding song on the album.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's this like electro pop kind of like rappy, versy, like small voice.
Agitated,
it's
soulful.
Reminiscent of Badlands a little bit, you know? So it's funny too. And we talked about this in our last interview actually, which is starting an album that has a new sound and a new direction with a comfortable entry point for people and going, hey, I'm still here, but I'm going to take you down on a different journey now.
Yeah.
So it's track 1 on the album and it's an introduction, but it's also this like cautious goodbye. I became very like aware of my mortality.
When and why?
Losing my peers. So many of them. Friends, people I didn't know, people I looked up to, people I was friends with, and almost losing others, and, realizing just how fragile it is. And like, music is supposed to be this thing that immortalizes you in a way. And it's also like at what cost, and how do people receive it, when you're not around to direct the ship. And
I'm so glad you said at what cost. I'm sort of obsessed right now with this idea of the trade and what we get versus what it takes out of the artist and what ultimately costs the artist in the pursuit of expression. And how we've always just gone, oh, well, it's the more mixed up ones that lose their way, but it's not the case. Every artist is on the verge, I feel, to some degree.
It is fleeting. Your permanence and your opportunity cost, that balance, those scales are constantly going back and forth day to day. Sometimes I'm on top of the world and I'm like, I've never felt better in my life. And there's other days where I'm like, if I keep doing this, I'm going to die. You know what I mean? Just straight up, no bullshit. Just if I keep doing this, I'm going to die. Like, not in like a whiny way, just like a matter of fact, like feeling it in my bones. Ashley is an introduction in a way that says, here's this album that I'm giving you that I had to cut myself open to make, and will have to continue to cut myself open to tour and promote and explain and everything like that. But this song is a warning that I don't know how many more of these you're going to get.
Yeah.
It says, I'm standing now in a mirror that I built myself. And I can't remember why. The decision wasn't mine, but it seems I'm only clinging to an idea now. I took my heart and sold it out to a vision that I wrote myself. And I don't want to be somebody in America just fighting the hysteria. I only want to die some days. And then the chorus says, someday when I burst into flames, I'll leave you the dust. I hope a bit of it'll be enough to help remember the days when we came to this place. I told you I'd spill my guts and then left you to clean them up. I'm bursting out of the seams. And then
that beautiful turnaround.
Yeah, that seems like now.
Yeah, that little clever turnaround, which I love.
Seems like now it's impossible to work this out. I'm so committed to an old ghost town. But is it really that strange if I always want to change? And if only the time and space between us wasn't lonely, I'd disintegrate into 1,000 pieces. I think I'm making a mistake, but if I decide to break, who will fill this empty space? So now, if I figure this out, apart from my beating heart, it's a muscle, but it's still not strong enough to carry the weight of the choices I've made. I told you I'd ride this out, but it's getting harder every day somehow. I'm bursting out of myself. So it's this kind of like plea to my fans that's saying like, someday if I burst into flames, I'll leave you the dust.
It is an exhaustive process. And sometimes it must feel like you have to do it rather than want to do it even.
Absolutely. And there were some days I was making Manic that I was sitting in the studio and like, there was days where I was doing like 5 sessions a day working on songs. Like I remember one day, and I'm going to say this, like I went in the morning to work. I'm going to give away some information. I don't know if I'm allowed to give away, but I'm going to do it. I'm always working on music, even if I'm not working on the album.
Sure.
So in the morning, I was in the studio at Brockhampton. I left from there and went to Benny's and was working on something. Left from there, went to my home studio at my house and was working on something with Lido that we had to bounce out to Suga in Korea right away. And then John Cunningham came over and we finished something out. And then I got a call from Louis Bell late at night and was like, come by and do this verse on this Post Malone album. And so at midnight, I jet from there to go work on the Post Malone album. I did 5 sessions that day. And I just remember I was wired. I was like, yeah, give it to me, yeah. And then I woke up the next day and was like, I legitimately
could not move.
Or for the next 5 days, people were like, what do you want for lunch? I was like, I don't care. Just get me anything. You know what I mean? Like, that's what became of it. It's almost this come down. It's like taking Molly. You know what I mean? You go in the studio and you're like rushing with these endorphins and you're making all this stuff and you're like, I am so full up and like invigorated right now. I can make anything. I am a god. I am taking abstract concepts like sound waves and turning them into tangible content. I am a god. I am making, creating. And then like the whole like next couple of days, you're like,
no, I just need lunch.
I don't want to write anything.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, that's real. And it's like, it sounds funny when I talk about it like this, but it's not funny when like, you know, that happens. Then I have to cancel plans with my brother I haven't seen in 2 months. I just can't do it.
That's what you learn.
Yeah.
That's why you keep moving.
Yeah. And for me, this also being my 3rd album, you know, this is the point where I'm hoping people are going to be like, oh, okay, so this is what she does is every time she puts out a record, it's a whole different thing. It's a whole different sound. When I put out Hope Was Found Kingdom, people were like, well, this doesn't sound like Badlands. And I only had 2 albums, so I couldn't be like, well, all my music sounds different.
Super important moment to do that. I would recommend any artist out there who has any kind of attentional success on album number 1 that the most important time that you make that decision is 2.
Yeah, go left. And I did that with this album too, to be frank for a second.
Please.
You know, I had this crazy year, 2 years. I had all these hits on the radio for the first time. And I was pretty confused, you know what I mean? Because when I made Badlands, that wasn't even a consideration. You know, once I think my awareness started to rise, you know, first was Bad at Love, or first was Now or Never, then was Bad at Love, then was Him and I, then was Without Me, then was East Side, then was Graveyard, you know.
Did we forget Chainsmokers, which was like the biggest?
Well, that was before Hope Was Found Kingdom.
But that's
so
when everybody recognized, whether they knew you or not, your voice.
Yeah.
That was the moment when your tone cut through, which I think is a big part of your toolbox is the ability to sound great.
Well, since then, I've never not had a song on the radio. So then all that happened, and everyone's like, oh, look, she's at the top of her game. She's going to put out an album full of pop bangers.
So what's going on in your life while you're having success?
Oh, I mean, it's a disaster. It's a complete disaster. My personal life is a disaster. The only refuge I'm finding is on the stage. I'm touring the Hope Was Found Kingdom tour. I'm doing the arena tour, the summer tour. I'm touring all over the world. The only place that I feel safe and at home is when I'm on stage. And the only place I'm feeling safe and at home is when I'm singing songs from before all this.
It's so funny how it works out that way. You said something really interesting in the dressing room. You were like, if you're listening to this album, you should assume or you should come to the conclusion that I'm over what you're listening to.
Totally.
I've moved into a different space.
Yeah.
I haven't actually heard an artist put it that way before in a long time. And so I loved hearing that. So you're going through and having all of these hit songs. But it's the other way around. It works in reverse too. Yeah.
Well, it's also like I sat down to make this album and there was that pressure. You know what I mean? Without Me was having this kind of like astronomical success.
And were you still going through heartbreak and pain when that was happening? Because listening to this album, it does flow through the record, this desire to get past a heartbreak and past a tough time.
I think the heartbreak was a breaking point because this album isn't centric on that one thing that happened. This whole album isn't about fucking Gerald. You know what I mean? I just want to get that out. It's not. Like there's a couple songs that are because obviously he was a huge part of my life and a huge part of a time in my life where I was growing and changing. So even if things aren't about him, they're about experiences that are adjacent to him. A lot of this is about is a reconnaissance of years of things I never got to work through because I was 19 and I was Halsey. You know what I mean? Like I didn't really have the time to do that kind of like self-care and self-work because I had to be composed. And I got too composed. That was part of the problem.
What does that feel like? What was that? Which era was that?
I mean, right around Hope Was Found Kingdom Without Me, where I was going on stage in the blonde wig and the sparkly outfit and doing interviews, doing the radio like, hey, what's up, it's Halsey and you're listening to my new song. And then I was like, what am I doing? What is this? But I was so scared of losing it.
Do you know one of the things that really kind of, so I was watching award ceremonies like everybody does.
Yeah.
And it cut to you. and I didn't recognize you.
Yeah.
Not because of the way you looked, because you're a chameleon. You change your vibe all the time. That's part of what makes you because you were that. Because your shoulders were back and you were smiling and you were laughing like I'm supporting everybody in the room. And I do
support everybody in the room, though. That's true.
I know you do. And you're an empathetic artist, but I'm just not used to cutaways of it.
Well, I wasn't either. So now the camera's on me and I'm like, oh my God, I must be, whatever. Cut to like the AMAs or why do I say or something? It was a very, very memorable moment in my life. When I won the award for Best Pop for Without Me, and I went up and I gave this speech where I was just like, hey, all this, you know what I mean? Like, this is bullshit.
Right.
And I care about my fans. And, it was a really cathartic week for me because I keep saying cathartic, but, it's an album. So
it's
it's
word,
cathartic.
By the way. Don't ever shy away from that.
It is. And it's like, I was like, I'm getting this award for Best Pop and I have this album in my hands that is by zero means a commercially manufactured pop record. And I could have written one. You know what I mean? Like, I could have done it. I could have written Graveyard 16 times, but I didn't really want to. And I'm up there and I'm yelling and my eyebrows are bleached off and I'm like screaming about the award. And I go backstage and I said to Anthony and Jason, my managers, I was like, oh my God, was that okay? I'm so sorry. I don't know what I did. And they stopped me. They put their hands on my shoulders and they're like, that's what you do.
That's what you do.
That's who you are. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, oh yeah, that is what I do. Okay.
I sort of look at you a little bit as kind of like a glitch in the matrix in the best possible way. It's like everything is just going in this perfectly ordered way, and then there's this tiny break in the code, and it's you.
Thanks.
And there's a few of you around.
For sure.
There's a few of
Rule
you
breakers,
around. Yeah, but also people that come in there and take all of that excitement, that energy, and that enthusiasm, and the success and everything that comes with it, but then just kind of ultimately realize it's just sort of not why they're doing it.
Yeah. And I don't fault myself for having that wake up call. I don't look at myself and go, oh, you sell out. Like you became commercialized, you became pop, all this stuff. Like,
I don't even know what that means anymore, by the way.
Me neither. But it's like, I look at it and I'm like, okay, so I had a couple bad months where I was insecure about myself in my personal life and I was projecting that into my career. You know what I mean? So it's like, all right, I had a couple bad months. Like, it could have been way worse. I could have completely lost myself. At least I snatched myself back and said, ho, this is not what we're going to do. It's not. This is not what we're going to do. You're not going to be that girl who goes and gets the radio hits and then everyone's, 5 years from now going, wow, Halsey really could have been something if she kept making music like Badlands. No, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to let that happen. So when I sat down to make Manic, I was having all these ideas, these like really impulsive ideas, because I was manic when I made the record, which is awesome because I'm this like unadulterated, uncensored like fountain of ideas and energy and like.
When you say you were manic when you made this record, how do you define that as being a parameters within which to create?
Oh, I didn't. It was just the way the timing worked out.
Right.
And with Badlands and Hopeless Found Kingdom, I was really depressed when I made those albums.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think those albums are so explosive and aggressive, is because I was overcompensating. And so for Manic, I was kind of just like, zipping around all over the place. And I'm like, what if this one sounds like the Beach Boys? And what if we put Dominic Fike on it, but I don't sing at all? And it's like, George's interlude on the Drake record, but it's like with Dominic Fike. And everyone's looking at me like, sure, okay. Or, I'm like, what if 6 of the songs don't have any drums?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, okay. They're looking at me like, sure, whatever you want to do.
That's what makes it such a beautiful and surprising album to listen to.
Thank you.
You go 1 Ashley, 2 Clementine, and it's like, this is not going to be a normal Halsey record.
No.
I'm so glad you put Clementine as the second song on there, because it's such a sweet little lullaby.
Yeah, unlike anything I've ever made before.
I suppose we should get some facts on the record, because I know Benny's been across the whole thing with you, working with you, kind of helping you in whatever capacity, right?
Yeah, well,
played a significant role.
Absolutely. I mean, Benny is like, Benny Blanco is one of my best friends in the world, and his taste is kind of like undeniable. And
his loyalty and love for you as well. Every time I'd see him, he'd be like, "Wait till you hear this Halsey record. Oh my God, this Halsey shit is fire, dude.
No, dude, no.
Seriously, dude.
You know what? The best decision that Benny made as an artistic
human.
Well, no, as an influence on this record is to actually step away a little bit and kind of let me make what I needed to make. And he would kind of like send me off and I'd run off and I'd make stuff and I'd come back and I'd play stuff for him. And there's plenty of times where I'd play him a record and he'd be like, and I'd be like, okay, I like it, so it's staying. And he'd go, all right, I'm not going to fight with you. You know what you want. And there's times also where like, he would be unsure about something and I would be so positive. And then later on, he would be like, dude, you were so right.
It's good.
You were so right, dude. Like when we made I Hate Everybody, I was writing the lyric, infatuation is observation with a cause. And he literally put his hand down on the mouse and stopped the track and turned and looked at me and was like, you can't say that. And I was like, why? He was like, because it's too...
cerebral?
Yeah. And I was like, that's what I do.
It is what you do.
That's the lyrics I write, dude.
You're a borderline poet.
Yeah.
On these
thank
things.
you.
I mean, and I don't even know if that's actually a thing. I don't think you can be a borderline poet. I think you're either a poet or you're not.
Yeah.
But the point is it's like when I listen to this, sometimes I feel like I'm listening to written word.
Thank
It's
you.
then turned into something that's become melodic
Sure.
to fit the structure of a song. You know, I look at a song like Forever.
Yeah.
I mean, that
was a
song,
poem first.
for sure, you can
Yeah, it
tell.
was a poem
Beautiful
first.
words, amazing ability to be able to turn that into something, but also
Thank
just
you.
the moment when you fade away and is it just right?
Yeah.
And you say it over and again, it's very delicate, and then this beautiful piano line comes in. Just talk me through, as a nerd, talk me through the process of how that structure and who played the piano and how that whole thing came to be, because that's probably the most adventurous structure I've heard you do.
Thank you. Every album of mine has what we call a trio. It's 3 songs smack dab in the middle of the album that serve as kind of like a transition point, and they're meant to be listened in succession. They don't always sometimes they make sense on their own, sometimes they don't, but they're meant to be listened to all together. And on Badlands, it was Coming Down, Roman Holiday and Haunting, because it's the moment in the record where you're driving and then the song comes on the radio and it starts raining and you hear the windshield wipers. Drive, Coming Down, Drive, Roman Holiday, I don't know, whatever. It's in there.
Congratulations, you're now a heritage artist. You can't
I can't remember my
your
own
albums.
I know. Hopeless Fountain Kingdom, it's Good Morning, Lie, Walls Could Talk. And then for this one, it's Forever is a Long Time, Dominic's Interlude, and I Hate Everybody.
So what are you saying in this suite?
In Forever is a Long Time, I'm falling in love. And the instrumental is major, not like massive major, like major minor. And it's, these beautiful like twinkling tones. Literally birds are singing. It's like Cinderella. Like I'm falling in love. And I'm like singing about this person who is like changing my life. I'm starting to feel like I'm falling in love and everything's all sweet. And that's Forever. And then I start getting in my own head.
That's the middle of Forever?
That's the middle where I go, I could look inside his eyes and get the colors just right. And that's I'm like, hold on. And I start thinking, and then the piano comes in and it's kind of like this train of thought, the stream of consciousness that goes off, and then it modulates from major to minor. And that's to show my mood shifting from, being positive and optimistic about this to all of a sudden my anxiety is getting the best of me. And now I'm sabotaging this relationship. I'm like, oh no. What am I doing? Why am I falling in love? What's going on? This is going to be bad. And then when the vocal comes back in, it's the build love, build God, build calluses, break promises, because I could never hold a perfect thing and not demolish it. And then the instrumental explodes and it goes, what am I thinking? What does this mean? How could somebody ever love me? And then I go, talk to your man, tell him he's got bad news coming.
What's that line mean?
That's me going, you better go break up with him, because this is not going to work. You're already in your head. You're already thinking, you better go talk to your boyfriend and let him know that this is starting to go south.
So you find yourself in the situation where your instinct flourishes and and once again you're open to all possibility and then just right. So why do you think at this point in your life, at the most self-aware that you've ever been through process, do you keep getting there? And what's the question you think that you have to ask yourself, or you're asking yourself right now more than any other, to break that cycle?
We accept the love we think we deserve. He's not doing anything wrong. It's me. I go, I could never hold a perfect thing and not demolish it. How could somebody ever love me? I'm getting in my own head and I'm self-sabotaging this relationship through my own insecurities and my own anxieties, my own paranoia, maybe as a result of past trauma, whatever it is. I mean, the whole beginning of the song, it's the nicest thing I've ever written about anyone ever. And it talks about my tendency to overthink and to look for the cracks and things. It opens with, I spent a long time watering a plant made out of plastic, and I cursed the ground for growing green. Meaning I'm sitting here watering this plastic plant being like, how come everybody else is flourishing? What's going on with me? I spent a long time substituting honest with sarcastic and then cursed my tongue for being mean. Being like, well, why am I saying these things? Like, being sarcastic to cover up like my own insecurities, my own whatever. And then weightless, breathless, restitute, motionless, and absolute. So like, this is love. This is real. This is it. It's motionless. It's absolute. It's not going anywhere. You cut me open and sucked the poison from an aging wound.
Yep.
And now 50,000 war cadets would cower at this small brunette. To my surprise, not 6 feet high, who would reach and grab the moon if I should ask or just imply that I wanted a bit more light so I could look inside his eyes and get the colors just right.
I mean, it's amazing. It's undeniable prose. And
thank you.
You know, I think it's in terms of like a modern day reflection of what falling in love feels like, that moment of fear.
Yeah.
What are you doing in your life now, apart from writing music, if I may ask, because we've always been honest with each other, to help you get past that break in the song and stay the course to something meaningful and long term?
Well, 2 things. One is I stopped dating musicians, which is for my own benefit. I want everyone to be the best version of themselves so much that I sometimes don't focus on making me the best version of myself. So sometimes when I'm dating another musician, I'm doing everything in my power to like help them succeed and watch them shine. And like, I want them to take up all the space and be the best they can be because they deserve it and they should be. And I obviously fell in love with them for a reason. And I think they're amazing. I want everyone to think they're amazing. And then like at some point I'm like, where do I fit in this box?
Yeah, you're not empowering, you're enabling.
So, you know, at a certain point I was like, I need to get a bigger box. So I got a bigger box. And the other thing is I have been far more discreet about my romantic pursuits than I ever have in the past. And a lot of that comes from 2 things. It's like a desire to really protect what I have going on right now and not wanting anybody else to be a part of it because it's mine and it's special. And that's, you know, I always used to think when I would see people who were in like private relationships, I'd always be like, well, how are they in love? Because if you love someone, you want everyone to love them as much as you do. So you want to show them off all the time. And then, you know, I became a grown-up and was like, wow, that's not true.
That's not tradable.
We want to protect the people that we love and keep it sacred. And I came to that realization for sure. It's helped me with this album especially because I kind of put my foot down and was like, here's what we're not going to do is make all my music about me and whoever I'm dating. This album is about me. So I don't want you to know about what my romantic relationships are like because it shouldn't matter.
Well, it's super refreshing actually listen to because when you're talking about things that relate to yourself or that you observe and can apply through your own lens, it's actually easier for everyone else to apply them to their own because it's personal communication. Most people can't relate to you and Gerald. They have no idea what the fuck's going on.
I hope not. For their sake, I hope not.
Or to you and whoever else you're dating, right?
Yeah.
That's something that others try to trade for. I think fans really want the journey with you.
Well, yeah, it's been easier for my music to be about me when it's just about me. It's really nice scrolling through my Instagram from the past couple months and only seeing pictures of me and my music and my fans and my friends. Also, that's just such a game. I don't want to play that game where it's like, you know, let's pretend to be in a perfect relationship because, you know, it's desirable on social media. Like that stuff, that is so real. I want to be able to be mad at my partner and not have to like post a photo later on Instagram because it's been a while since we've posted one and everyone's getting worried. Like, who cares? Oh my God. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be like, here's this painting I made, or like, here's this thing I'm doing, or check out these pics from my live show. And like, I should matter enough on my own. I shouldn't be desirable because some, you know, rock star you think is cool thinks I'm desirable. I'm cool because I'm me, and I'm likable because I'm me. And like, I don't need someone else's validation and someone else's love and devotion publicly for me to make you see me through a desirable lens. That's not what this is about anymore. And it's what it should never have been about. You know, but when you're a young woman, your insecurities get the best of you sometimes. And it's like, it's in I Hate Everybody. I say, if I could make you love me, maybe you could make me love me. And if I can't make you love me, then I'll just hate everybody. You know, it's that thing of like, well, they respect his opinion. And if he likes me, they will too. Whoa, wrong. No, wrong. I think that this is probably the most anyone has ever liked me. And it's for being myself. So that's...
Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you.
No, it's a huge life moment.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, hey.
You do get...
25.
Yeah, but Ashley, you do get a life. It's not all for everybody else.
Yeah, I know. I'm learning that.
It's not all for trade.
I'm learning that.
Right?
Yeah. It's really nice.
You know, Dom, Fike. I love this kid.
I know. I love him too.
He's amazing. And I love the fact that you brought him in to work on the record. And
yeah, I'm his biggest fan.
Tell us a cute story about him.
Oh, okay. I met Dom for the first time. He came over to my house with a bunch of mutual friends, and we spent like 6 hours tie-dyeing t-shirts in my backyard.
Tie-dye season.
And we were just talking because I told him I'm a huge fan, and he was leaving for like one of his first tours ever. And like, we were sitting around having a beer, just talking, and he's like I'm giving him all this advice. And he's hanging out in my kitchen. I'm making everyone pancakes. Like, this was last year, right? And so I was like, how old are you? And he was like, oh, I'm 23. I'm turning 24. And I was like, oh, I'm 24. And he literally spit his food out. He was like, what?
I was about to make this observation because some people who are listening to this might think because of your status as an artist and what you've achieved, that you're bringing Dominic Fike into some room like some little brother. You're the same age.
We're the same age. Yeah, I know. And he was like, what? And I was like super offended. I was like, how old did you think I was? And he was like, I don't know, like closer to 30. And I was like, no, dude, we're...
No maple syrup for you, motherfucker.
But he said the same thing. He was like, I guess I just think you've been around for a while. So I just always assumed you were older. And I was like, nah, dog, I am your age.
Nah, dog. It's also because, you were coming at things from a fairly precociously mature level, even as a young artist.
Sometimes.
I love the word precocious personally. It shows ambition. But you were definitely coming out, and you were.
I was arrogant. Is what it was.
Actually, you were, but it was okay. Yeah. I remember the first conversation we had, and I remember thinking like, all right, she's definitely gassing herself a bit. But I knew that also you were working things out.
Well, I also knew that nobody was going to think any of those things about my art unless I told them, because I was a 19-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Nobody was going to take me seriously unless I ferociously took myself seriously.
That's a very good point.
I had to walk into places and be like, hey, let's talk about my art.
Yep.
And people were like, oh, she thinks she's so artistic. She's so arrogant. And I was like, no, I'm talking about my art the way it deserves to be talked about. And I know that if I let you lead the conversation, then you're going to try to talk to me about a bunch of bullshit because I'm 19. And I would go into everything being like, I write all my own music. And people would be like, oh my God, Halsey.
Why do you have to keep saying that?
Yeah,
why do
we
artists
get
have
it.
to say that?
Because I have to, because people just assume everyone's writing my music for me. Because why would a 19-year-old girl be able to write all of her own songs on a platinum debut album?
Because your assumption is in reverse and destructive to your sense of well-being and your ability to achieve.
And nobody's asking it to the boys. Not to make it a girls versus boys thing, but it's true.
It is a girls versus boys thing, and I'm glad that girls are like, that.
Yeah.
I write my shit.
A 19-year-old boy wanders into a studio with an acoustic guitar, and everybody's like, oh my God, he's like, he's just so, and a girl does, and everyone's like, industry plant. I'm like, industry plant? What? First of all, I signed to a boutique label that couldn't afford to plant me anywhere. I had to fight really hard to be where I am.
You were not supposed to. I'll say it. You were
not supposed to be here.
You're not.
No.
Badlands is a weird debut album. You were supposed to disappear off into alternative pop space and work on the fringes and do whatever you were going to do.
Yeah.
And nah. And that's one of the best things about your story is that you kick back and we're like, nah, I've got my own narrative that I'm going to run.
Thank you.
Here. Song called Finally is like a moment on the album where I feel like you're realizing something as a writer.
Yeah.
And you take
timelessness. I was like, I need a wedding song. I need a first dance song. Though, when I wrote that song, I wasn't thinking about that. I didn't realize it was that until after it was done and I played it for Aunt.
Where were you?
I wrote it at home. I wrote it in my living room.
What time?
Oh God, like 2 a.m.
What was going on?
I was dating Dom, not Fike, other Dom. I was really happy. I was really happy with my life. I was thinking about the night that he and I met, because I'd told the story so many times, and every time I told it, it got better and better and better and more, romantic. And it wasn't raining. It wasn't raining, but like in the story, like the streets are shiny wet.
We love to embellish these things.
Yeah,
of course.
I'm a writer. It's what I do. I was like, I need to tell this, this romantic story. And I'd never written a love song before. Not one without a punchline.
Yeah, not one without a bar.
There wasn't one that was like, not a forever. It's just a nice song. It's just a nice song. It's a sweet song. It's about feeling safe and feeling like you can trust love.
Did it unlock something in you as a writer, knowing that you could go there and not sabotage the process? Not just your life, but the process.
Yeah. Well, because especially seeing how minimalistic the record is as well. Because when I wrote it, I was kind of like, It wasn't crazy enough. It didn't say something crazy enough for me. But I loved it so much and I had to get it out. And I really just wrote it for him. I don't know if I was necessarily thinking about the album so much at the time. And I remember I kind of sent it to him. I was like, yeah, here you go. I'll send it. And I remember you guys both, Anthony and Jason, were like, this is the best song you've ever written. And I was like, what? I was like, but it's just me and a guitar. And they were like, that's the point.
What did he think?
Oh, he loves it.
Yeah, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, he loves it.
And also, it's like if you want to get back into that reversal to get to reestablish and reassert the power base of who does what.
Yeah.
How many stories have been written about famous male singer-songwriters writing a song for a female flame or for this or that?
Oh, a billion.
And it's so cool that you're like,
flipped it.
Flip it.
Flipped it. And I'm happy that I have it too because, obviously, Dom and I are just friends now. Mm. And I saw kind of the way that people, sometimes justifiably, sometimes not, swarm someone's like ex and like develop all these narratives about them. And he's just like a really awesome guy. And everyone's got this thing that's like, oh, be careful if you date Halsey because you're going to get a song. And it's like, yeah, you probably will, but that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a bad thing because here's just like a really, really nice one about a really awesome guy. It was kind of a really nice moment for me because I was like, I didn't have to skip over a chunk of my life. I still got to document it. And
you get to sing that song with a full heart.
Yeah.
Is it the first time in your life that you've been able to let something like that go and immediately recognize that it brought nothing but value to you?
Yeah. The amount of people who connect with that record too in a positive way made me realize like, okay, cool. It doesn't always have to be disaster for people to relate to it. And that was like a huge eye-opener for me. And who knows what that means for where the future of my music will go. But, it was definitely a really poignant moment of being like, I don't only feed off of tragedy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm capable of finding something, at the end of the day, like I'm a writer. And to be a writer at its full extent is to be able to make magic out of anything. Not just the bad stuff.
So now we get into the flex mode of the album. This is where you sort of come out there and like even through all the self-awareness and taking responsibility that you finally come out and just be a little bit like...
I'm trying to think of what... I don't even know
can we not talk about Alanis Morissette for a hot second?
Big flex.
Are you kidding
big
me?
Flex. Big flex. Biggest flex.
Oh, the biggest flex.
Big flex.
I mean... The Canadian genius doesn't come out of hiding for anything. She said it all. She released one of the most timeless classic albums of all time, followed up with a song called Thank You. Could have walked away then. Could have put a ribbon on it with Thank You.
Yeah.
But didn't. Kept creating, lived her life. To me, is a classic example of somebody who took control back. And this is from the outside looking in. I have zero knowledge of this human beyond respect and adoration.
Yeah.
Took control, applied it, built a life she wanted to live.
Yeah.
And now people come to her.
Yeah. Hey, it's the dream.
The inspiration,
right? That's the blueprint, man. That is the blueprint.
So she's the blueprint.
Since day one. She's the first artist I ever felt in my belly. I loved music my whole life, but she's the first, and young, my mom playing Alanis in the car and me being like, what is this? I reached out not expecting much.
How'd you do it? DM or management?
I wrote her a letter.
Right.
And then had it sent to her. She was like 9 months pregnant. I mean, she might have been like less than that at the time. She was 9 when we finished the song, which also like, you're a legend. But, and then they came back and she was like, yeah, I would love to. And I literally remember the day I found out that she was down. I was like, like I was beyond. Like there's not an artist in the world that could have provoked that kind of reaction from me.
So let me ask you a question for the benefit of all those who are watching this and listening right now who want to pluck up the courage to reach out to somebody they admire in the hope of some kind of collaborative response and choose the smart way to do it by writing a letter and not jumping on the DMs. That's why I asked the question because I'm glad you came up with the right answer.
I would never slide into Alanis Morissette's DMs. You got me all the way f***ed up if you think I would do that. Whew!
But let me ask you a question about the letter for those people that are listening. This is important. What was the single most important part of the letter that mattered to you, that you think mattered to her? Was it the tone? Was there a line? Was it the feel? Is there one thing you said?
The one thing that I really tried to get across was like, you know, you have had an absolutely irrevocable impact on my life. I connect with you in such a personal way. Everything that I've ever said, I wouldn't be brave enough to say if someone like you didn't say it first. And, you know, I'm making this record that is about all the important parts of me, and you're one of those parts. And I can't really imagine, like, making it without you. That was, like, the thing that I really wanted to get across the line. And it's true because, you know, the interludes all kind of represent relationships in my life. Dom is like kind of this like brotherly figure because he comes in as this like, you know, fairy godbrother kind of thing where he's like, you better talk to your man, tell him he's got bad news coming, go walk on the edge with someone new. Like he's like, get out. You know what I mean? He's like giving it to me straight. And whether that's my real brother, Savion, who's in the Clementine music video, or it's Anthony or Jason, or like any of the kind of like brotherly figures I have in my life that are like, hey, wake up. And then Alanis is kind of like the reverse of that, where she's like the powerful women in my life that have led me to an adulthood where I am sexually empowered. I am professionally empowered, just intrinsically, you know, this feminine, I don't want to say maternal because it's not really that so much as just like, you know, she's this like fountain of feminine vitality for me where I can always go back and draw from her whenever I need to feel inspired as a woman.
And here's the most amazing thing about that is now you can.
Yeah.
Because you actually have a piece of music that when you're feeling bad is your own reference point.
Yeah. It's true.
And then straight into Killing Boys. You ain't fucking around. That's a fun record.
Killing Boys is so fun.
That's a fun record.
That's really where the record gets like when I'm talking about Mania.
Yeah.
So like, I Hate Everybody is the delusion of grandeur. You know what I mean? It's this paranoia. It's like, you know, I'm like looking at everyone around me. They're all looking at me. It's a delusion of grandeur. Killing Boys is this like, I mean, that's Manic, is sitting in your house and being like, I'm so mad at my ex-boyfriend, I want to kill him. You obviously, I'm not really thinking that, but it's like being enraged in that way. And, you know, sitting down and being like, you know, in your head and being like, I'm going to go to his house. I'm going to break in his house. I'm going to go in his room. I'm going to sit him down and be like, listen, motherfucker, you're going to talk to me right now. You're going to talk to me right now. And I'm going to break in. I know the codes. It's cool. I'm going to wear a black hoodie. My friend's going to drive. It's actually pseudo based on a real story of a time that I did bust into somebody's house looking for answers about something.
This is the real
yeah.
Because you're just like, not like I do it. I mean, I did kind of.
It's not like I would ever do it, but I did it.
Okay, I went through it as an exercise. I didn't really do it. Obviously.
Yeah. It was research. It was research. Okay. True story though, by the way. There's so many lyrics in that I love because I did that in a time where I was being really manic. And instead of sitting down and being like, yo, be calm, deal with this, I was like, no, my only option is to just go over there and cause a scene. And it's like, that's manic, is being like, I'm mad at my partner. Like that lyric, like, I pull up to your drive and I remember the codes, the only fucking numbers you don't hide in your phone. You know what I mean? Like that's anger. I'm mad. You know, it's like I climb up to the window and I break in the glass, but I stop because I don't want to Uma Thurman your ass. Like, you know what I mean? There's like some satire in that.
That's funny.
The beginning opens up with, you know, this thing. My mom always says to me, she's like, pick your battles. Well, I'm like, well, what if I want to choose them all?
Hard to do if you're manic.
What if I want to choose all of them?
That's not conducive with that behavior.
No, being manic means you're invincible.
You're in it all the time.
And you're unstoppable. And you're like, I think I could probably choose every battle. And I'll win. I'll win all of them.
Yeah.
You know, there's like a joke. And I actually know a lot of people with bipolar disorder, you know, like me, who say this. And they're like, and I'm surmising it. I don't know what the real saying is. But it's like, God gave me depression because he knew if I only had mania, I would try to overthrow him. And it's like, that's so, it's true sometimes because when you're manic, you're like, I can lift a car off of, like, I could flip a car. Like, that's how I feel emotionally. I could emotionally flip a car.
Yeah.
And so it opens with this, they told me pick my battles and be picking them wise, but I want to pick them all and I don't want to decide no more. And then it's this like, you're supposed to get this vision of these girls all like, you know, talking together and they're like the gangs together. And then they're like, so we'll sneak in the back and then we'll kick in the door. Have you ever keyed a Ferrari before? You know what I mean? So it's like, it's very expressive and very flat out.
Yeah, it's fun and it's f***ed up. And
it's funny you said it's fun because I wrote it with Nate Russ. Yeah.
I mean, I think most kids wouldn't know the connection anymore, but I wish they would. And I wish that band would get back together.
Me too. One of my favorite songwriters of all time.
I think like 50 arenas, books sold out in an hour if they did that.
I mean, they could go. They've had some of the biggest records ever. But he wrote the melodies in that hook that, I'm not breaking, I won't take it, and I won't ever feel this way again. Because it's like, I'm not breaking, I won't take it, I'm never going to feel like this ever again. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not letting this happen anymore, and I'm going to put a knife in it.
Yeah.
And it opens with that quote from Jennifer's Body, which is this, cult classic film about female rage and female aggression and female sexuality being weaponized. The idea of a woman being like a man-eater. And I just love it so much because Amanda Seyfried and Megan Fox, and they're like, you're killing people. No, I'm killing boys.
They're placeholders.
Yeah.
I love the other quote as well from Eternal Sunshine. They're really nicely placed and really add something to it. It's very you. Working with Sugar's interlude.
Yeah.
Whenever the two of you have these fan bases and come together, everyone thinks that it's just this backroom, boardroom trade.
No.
And you can tell that it's super genuine.
I met them in person for the first time, and then I hung out with them a couple times on a bunch of different occasions, just wanting to get to know them and understand them on a personal level.
Yeah.
We weren't even talking about doing a collaboration, but I think we all kind of always knew we wanted to do one. And then the guys were like, we want Halsey on the album. And I was like, of course, and we came together to do Boy With Love, and it was really incredible because it was, I think, the last song that anyone would have expected us to do, seeing as they have some really dark stuff in their catalog, and so do I. Mm-hmm. And it was fun, and it was a really, awesome experience for both of us. It was this cultural, it's a historical moment. Mm-hmm. And so I had spent time with them, and I'd gotten to know a lot of them on an individual level, you know what I mean? Like, I know their hobbies and their tastes and what sense of humor like they have. And
the homies.
Yeah, which joke's going to land with one of them and which joke's not going to land with another. And I started exploring some of their solo music a little bit more. And with Suga, I got into August D, which is his solo project. And I was looking up lyric translations, and I was blown away. I was like, this stuff is so introspective. The content is about mental health and his inner turmoil. And he's a really quiet guy in real life. And I was just like moved. And RM, Namjoon, and I are really good friends. And, and there's some of the other guys that have like singing voices that are kind of similar to mine, that are like airier and a little softer. And it's like, Suga probably was the last member of BTS that anyone would have expected me to collaborate with. And the one whose lyrical approach I felt the most connected to. And I knew I had to have him be a part of this record. I knew that he would get what it feels like to be manic, to be introspective.
One of the most beautiful piano lines on the record as well.
Leto.
Unreal.
Yep, that's Leto. Leto is brilliant. Every time I make an album, I'm like, I'm not going to work with Leto again. And then I always work with Leto again, every single time. He has a way of expressing himself sonically that just always feels right for me.
Do you want to tell the story about Want You More?
Sure, yeah. More was a turning point in the album in a different way, because I'm turning 25 while I'm making this album, and I'm like trying to figure out ways to mature gracefully, to still have access to the things that motivated me when I was young, because they're still part of me, but to expand into a space that's greater than this coming of age mentality that I've had for so long. Because a day's going to come when I can't sit here and be like, I'm just growing up and learning, man. You're going to be like, you're 35, Halsey, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, that's going to happen. You're going to be like, if you don't have it figured out yet, then like you're whatever. But
new learnings.
Yeah.
You have to say goodbye to these youthful experiences. The angst.
Yeah.
And find different ways.
So More was a song that I wrote. I've been really open about struggling with reproductive health. I've talked about wanting to freeze my eggs, and I've talked about, having endometriosis and different kind of like tragic experiences that I've gone through on the subject of reproductive health. And for a long time, I didn't think that was something, that having a family was something that I was going to be able to do in an effortless manner.
And it's something that is very important.
Very important to me. Very important to me. I was working on the record and I had a doctor's appointment, and I have many doctor's appointments with my amazing OBGYN. She's super awesome. We've been on TV together. I love her. She's so great. She told me that, because of my treatment and because of whatever, the steps that I was taking to better myself as a person and the steps that she was implementing as a medical professional put me in a position where it was looking like I could start a family at some point, should that be something I want to do, which she knows is something that I very much want to do. And I was really moved by the information because it wasn't something I thought was a possibility for a really long time.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it was also a moment where I felt like I had leveled up in life, kind of, where it was this ascension into a different kind of womanhood. All of a sudden, everything I'm thinking about is different. Everyone's like, all right, so you're done with the third album. When are we going to start working on the fourth? And I'm like, I don't know anymore, because this is different now. I'm not going to go tour myself to death because I have nothing else to do and I'm overcompensating for not being able to have this other thing that I really want. Now I have a choice. I've never had a choice before. So I went to Benny's and I wrote the lyrics to More in 4 minutes or less. It just spilled out of me. And I wrote it in a way where if you're not looking for the message, you're not going to hear it. But if you're looking for it, you'll find it. Because it kind of facades as just a normal love song. And it is a love song, but not to a romantic person. It's this song that's really full of hope, but also really kind of details the tragedy, that I was going through. It says, they told me once nothing grows when a house ain't a home. Is it true, honestly, when it's all a part of me? A couple years of waiting rooms, finding God and lose him too. Want to scream, but what's the use? I'm lying awake and I stare at the door. I can't take it no more. They told me it's useless, there's nothing in store, but somehow I still want you more. And when you hear that and you don't think it's about a boyfriend or a girlfriend anymore, it kind of takes on a whole other thing. And the second verse goes, wooden floors and little feet, a flower bud in concrete, feeling so incomplete, I wonder will we ever meet? And would you know it right away, how hard I tried to see your face, a little screen, a photograph that's mine to take. I sit and I stare at your clothes in the drawer. I cry and my knuckles get sore, because I still believe it won't be like before, and now somehow I just want you more. And then it kind of goes into this lullaby, very maternal kind of melody in the bridge where it says, when you decide it's your time to arrive, I've loved you for all of my life. And then the instrumental fades out in a way where Lito and I built it to sound kind of like a sonogram, like you were hearing the sounds from inside of a womb. You know what I mean? So it's one of the most special songs I've ever made, and by far one of the most mature. And it was a really amazing moment for me because I sat down and looked at it when it was done and went, no matter what happens to me in my life, I will always be able to write a song. Because that wasn't about anything that any of my other songs have ever been about. And it's one of my favorites I've ever written and one of my most personal. And that said to me that I will find the ability to mature as an artist and write about themes that are relevant to me and not have to grow old and writing with the mentality of a 20-year-old, because that's what people want to hear. If this is a way to relate to my fan base in a way that's authentic to me. And that's what was really important about the song. And it's also not a sad song because it's
Well, you have options. You have a choice.
I have a choice, exactly. That's what makes it happy. I'll probably never play it live because it's one of those. Unless I have someone to sing it to.
I was going to say.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you might.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
I think you might. I think there'll be a time when you bring that one out and it will be a great moment.
Definitely be a weepy moment, that's for sure.
9/29?
Yeah.
On 9/29?
It's the most me song on the record because I come out of the gate being like, I was born at 9/29 on 9/29. I'll prove it to you. It's real. And then by the end of the song, I go, I have a confession to make. Yeah. I was born at 9/26. I just saw my birth certificate and I'm a liar. Also have 9/29 tattooed on my hand. Me and John Cunningham.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Me and John Cunningham who did the record with me. Yeah. John was probably the most important person that I could have met at this point in my career. He walked into my house and we made Clementine together. We made Killing Boys together. We made 9/29 together. We made a couple other things together. But, he pulled this really poetic, stream of consciousness thing out of me that I didn't know. I don't know if I really had the forum to express before. And I felt so safe with him. And I would just say anything. And when we made 929, he played me this guitar loop. It just made me feel so, it was just a loop. It was just an acoustic guitar loop. And it made me feel so overwhelmed with emotion. Nostalgic. It kind of has like a little bit of like a pop punk undertone to it.
It's quite pumpkin-y to me.
Really? Maybe like the instrumental
part of it.
The way I went with the melody that and it's just these things that I'm thinking for hours, and I'm picking my hair out in clumps in the shower. That's like super like, it's like the Wonder Years, like the story so far or something, you know? Which was a really great way to surmise a record that was about me, because that music was so instrumental to my growth as an artist as well. I mean, that one, I just am like, all right, anything I haven't said yet, I'm going to say it all right now.
And you do.
And I just, bleh,
Are you still smoking?
No, I quit.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Because that really gives you the backbone to get some shit done.
I know.
Because everyone tells you you'll be back. The first thing smokers tell you is you'll be back.
I know.
And when you finally walk away, I honestly feel like quitting smoking opened up the door for me to feel like I could almost achieve
I could do anything. I could do anything. It's funny though, because I do give myself a little cushion though. I go, I quit smoking. Well, recently I tried.
Yeah, but see, you got to drop that. You can't sing that lyric anymore. You got to leave that off the song.
I know.
You can't sing that. You got to walk away from that.
That one was a hard one. My little brother cried when he heard that song. He said, "This is the most you've ever sounded like my sister." Yeah, that one was hit home for sure.
Well, the other hard one is
Well, Still Learning is up there too.
And what about talking about your dad?
Oh yeah, I stared at this guy in Milwaukee and hoped that my father would finally call me. That one was tough because I don't want people that know him to hear it and think anything bad about him. You know, like families go through cycles, and my father and I have a really great relationship now. And we never didn't. We just like, there was a time where I wasn't being very receptive to any male energy in my life because I had been so wronged. There was kind of like that moment in time where I just felt like I couldn't trust anyone. I think certain people had to like adapt. It was a wake-up call for a lot of people around me because, someone would be like, oh, I can't believe that person treated you like that. And I would be like, you treat me like that. Again, like I said earlier, if I'm writing a song about something, it usually means I'm past it. And I wrote that about a Milwaukee date on the summer tour 2 years ago that I remembered like really vividly. And that's where that came from. My personal favorite is, I remember this girl with pink hair in Detroit. She told me, Ashley, you have to promise us that you won't die because we need you. And honestly, I think that she lied. I remember the names of every single kid I've met, but I forget half the people I've gotten in bed. And then I love the ending as well, where I kind of go on that like real rant. It's just these things that I'm thinking for hours, and I'm picking my hair out in clumps in the shower. I lost the love of my life to an ivory powder till I realized that I'm no higher power. And I wasn't in love then, and I'm still not now, and I'm so happy I figured that out. I've got a long way to go until self-preservation. Think my moral compass is on a vacation, and I can't believe I still feed my fucking temptation, but I'm still looking for my salvation. The record ends with this acknowledgement of like, I don't have it all figured out.
Still learning.
Still learning. Yeah, that's a tough one too. Because it's hard to write the like, oh my God, I'm so famous song without sounding like you're going, oh my God, I'm so famous.
I'm not going to lie to you. I rolled my eyes a little bit in my head when you opened that song. I was like, please don't let this be that song. Where it's just like, oh, I'm out here and I've got security. No, I'm saying at the start, the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, please don't be that like I've got security and it's also hard for me song. No. And what's amazing is that it does 100% redeem itself. But when it first begins, it's like, oh, no.
Should be living the dream. But I'm living with a security team.
I'm like, no, Ashley, don't do it, don't do it. And then you immediately pivot out of that. So it gets your attention the right way.
The second part, I should be living the dream, but I go home and I have no self-esteem.
There it is.
You think I'm swimming in green, but it's passed around my family tree, and no man wants to really commit, intimidated because I get paid and shit. You're in the crowd and you're reading my lips, but no one around me knows. There is no song on any of my albums so far that is self-aware that it's a famous person singing it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of needed one. Of course. I think to just be
it's your reality.
Yeah.
Well, it was your reality.
It was, yeah. It's definitely not anymore, which is really great. I want my fans to know that like, I think I've said this to you before, but like being an artist is this paradox of being like super insecure and super arrogant.
100%.
You know, because you're insecure enough that you need validation from people, and that's why you're putting yourself out there. But you're arrogant enough to think you're going to get it.
Anyone's going to care.
You're going to get it.
No, totally. Yeah. I mean, it's 50-50 either way. I have one more question for you in this.
Ooh, one more.
This new session.
I feel like we could have kept going.
Oh, but that's why we have to have another one.
Okay.
And so I'm going to preface this question by saying this. It's a new decade. In 10 years' time, you're going to be 35. I'm going to be 56. Who are you this decade? The next 10 years, who are you?
Hopefully I am a really earnest artist in more ways than music. Hopefully I get to expand into the other things that keep me up at night. Me being a musician is just a symptom of my creative sickness. It's not the plot. It's just a symptom right now. And it's going to be other things. Hopefully I'm a really great mom, like an awesome one. Hopefully I'm living somewhere that I really like, because I haven't really found anywhere that I like to live yet. I kind of hate everywhere. You know, this is probably the first interview that I've ever done where the person that I hope I become isn't too far off from the person that I already am right now. I used to think that I had a long way to go and that I had a lot more to do. And I'm going to keep learning and evolving for the rest of my life. I always say that the second I stop considering myself a student, just take all my privileges away. The second I think that I have something to teach anybody and not more to learn from myself, like, stop letting me make music, you know, because you're supposed to be a student forever. So hopefully I'm continuing to, you know, challenge myself and learn new ways. Hopefully, you know, my records become even more autonomous. I would really like to self-produce a record just completely by myself at some point. But, you know, I need a little bit of time off to get better at programming. It takes a lot of practice to be. I've sound designed every album I've ever made. It's just the hands part that's hard. So yeah, I would like to have some, you know, even greater autonomy, if that's even possible, over my work. I want to be a really great mom. I want to be doing art in other ways. And I want to be living in a better world. I want to be living in a better world. I want to be living in a world where I can wake up and be happy that I had children instead of wondering if I've done something terrible by bringing them into a time in humanity that's like this. You know, that was one of the biggest catch-22s for me, and like the biggest like, oh, woe is me, self-pity kind of thing, is finding out I can have kids and looking around at the world and going, well, I don't know if I really want to right now. You know, like I finally get to do this thing that I've wanted for so long, and would it even be fair for me to bring them into a place that's like this? So I hope I'm living in a better world. And it's up to me to do my part to make that happen, you know, in the next couple of years. I can't just sit down and thoughts and prayers. I need to put the work in too. So it's gonna be an interesting decade.